Paul, we're back again.
Yeah, we are.
So we had a couple weeks there where we talked about Charlie Kirk, and we got a lot of responses on that. We got a lot of views.
Decent amount.
A decent amount, yeah. I call it a decent amount. Mm-hmm. Then we went into, last week I had a deleted clip from when we did the discussion with Farmer Fred a few weeks ago about the stigma of addiction. And Farmer Fred has sent us another package. He sent it some recovery materials.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which he sent it to my wife's and my P.O. box. And we checked today and it hasn't come yet. So, so as soon as we have those materials, maybe we'll have some more things to discuss. Do you remember what those materials were he was going to send?
Yeah, it's the white book.
Okay. The white book again is?
The white book is the equivalent of the big book for Alcoholics Anonymous.
Except it's for
Sexaholics.
Right, okay.
Anonymous.
Because there are Alcoholics Anonymous groups in Uganda, but there's not a
Sexaholics, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So he had sent you...
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, so we haven't received those materials yet, but when we do, maybe that'll be a source of another conversation. And we have plans for another conversation with Miriam and Buzz, a chat discussion coming up in, over the next week. And so when we come back, we might have some more interesting things to talk about.
Yeah, sure.
So that's everybody out there. Hopefully you'll have all those things to look forward to. Although I noticed the clip that I put last week for the deleted clip from the stigma of addiction episode didn't get as many views and didn't seem to be as interesting to people. And the Charlie Kirk topic, I think, really
it was more timely.
Yeah, it was more timely. And so I think what we want to try to do, Paul, is to try to focus more on timely issues, more relevant topics. And so I think we're going to be trying to emphasize more timely topics going forward into the future. So
yeah, okay. So
but yeah, you have hopefully something that's timely you want to talk about. We can.
Well, I don't know about timely, but there is a WhatsApp group I'm on for when we're doing our masters in psychologist. It's a group of old, but we even after upon graduation, people kept the group. So once in a while, we have a post here and there, and people respond. So there was this meme. It's a meme per se, but it's a real life story. So there is this PhD candidate that got married to her supervisor, and someone posted it.
Here in Uganda?
No,
okay.
I think it was an American newspaper that was quoted.
When you say to their supervisor, you mean to their advisor?
The supervisor, the one was supervising their research and all that.
Okay, so that'll probably be a faculty member who already has a PhD.
Yeah, it's probably probably like a professor or something. Yeah. So they got married, and so someone posted like, "Oh, okay, I finally someone has saved us of one of those other academics who don't want to get married." And the intention was to crack a joke, but people took it so personally, and ladies were like, "Okay, now you're shaming other ladies. You feel having children and getting married is a big tick in our lives. It doesn't matter. Everyone has their own choice." So the conversation was very interesting, and I remember when we started out with Free to Speak, our first topic was work.
Yep.
And when I looked at the messages, it just pointed me to work. And I'm like, ladies have been so emancipated. To be able to in a sense to reduce population growth. Why? Because if you and it's something also we came up with when we were in secondary school. The biggest contraceptives, or the strongest contraceptive of this age, at least in Uganda, it is education.
Wait, say that again?
The strongest contraceptive is education.
The strongest contraceptive is education. Gotcha.
Yeah.
So in other words, the more educated you are, the less likely you are to have so many kids or any kids at all.
Exactly.
Maybe. Yeah.
And another way to look at it is that the more engaged a lady is in school, the more she will postpone having a child.
Mm-hmm.
So, and this is accurate in our area, in that usually when a girl drops out from primary school, before you know it, 3 years later she'll have a baby. Same with secondary school or high school. When a girl drops out before she graduates from high school, usually it's because she's pregnant or she's disinterested in school, but eventually the next thing you'll know is that she's pregnant.
Mm-hmm.
Same with university or college. And basically, the more education preserves ladies from pregnancy better than any other contraceptive would.
So is it, when you say that, is it that it preserves them from having children, or does it preserve them from relationships? Because what they do is they put off relationships to pursue their careers. So then by the time they get their careers and they become older, suddenly now they're not as desirable.
No, it doesn't preserve them from relationships. But then they're in relationships, but the intentions of the relationship are not to have children.
So they still have the relationships.
Of course, they have relationships because they.
Or do they have like committed relationships or sexual relationships? Like what kind of relationships?
Either they could be committed, they could be sexual, but they have relationships. But then these relationships usually don't see the light of day anyway, because. These ladies, eventually, they are more focused on their career or academics. So yes, they have the relationships, but they usually fall apart eventually. And
so the relationships fall apart.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
And they keep having other relationships anyway. As long as a relationship is not standing in the way of school, it can go. So what happens is that every time a girl either graduates or drops out of school, you give them within a year or two, they'll be pregnant. Usually, So in a sense, the more they stay in school, the more they don't have children. And then I'll get back to what you said. And of course, the more they go into school, then they are more shaped to become career women.
Right.
And career women also, they want to first reach a particular level of comfort in their career. Then they're like, okay, now I can have children. And then they're having children in their late 30s or mid 30s moving forward, which biologically, those are risk pregnancies.
Yes.
And at that point, also, they are less attractive than when they were in their 20s.
Well, that's what I'm talking about.
They're less appealing.
That's what I was suggesting. So what happens is women sometimes think, well, I've got my entire life. But because of the fact that men are primarily attracted more by what they see, when a woman gets older, she becomes less attractive to a man. And so then her ability to attract a man is not as strong at, say, 35 or 40 as it was when she was 20.
Exactly. And then you find them settling, and then they're settling with men who they are funding, or men who disrespect them. And they're not really.
That's what you're talking about. The candidate went with her advisor.
Yeah,
married
eventually.
her advisor.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yes, okay.
They may not settle exactly for someone that they're in love with or that loves them that much. They settle with someone that's willing. Right. So in a sense,
and the man's maybe looking at it reverse. Maybe he's an older person. Hey, I get this younger, beautiful. Maybe she's a little older than a 20-year-old, but she's younger than him, and so has a level of attractiveness.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
But anyhow, so to not digress, the point is, women have been weaponed against themselves. They've been fashioned as weapons against themselves, because women naturally have this motherly instinct, the instinct to nurture, but now they are being encouraged to first focus on career, first focus on getting money and all these things. But then they lose the time that they would have been able to have children more safely, or and have enough time to actually raise the children. So eventually they have children late, and these children, they can't nurture them exactly the best way they can, and then and the older you get, of course, when you have children late, things, they don't necessarily go, because you have less years to go. So what happened in the group? People started fighting, and so there are people who are saying, okay, no, but it's a choice. Then someone's like, no, but no, that's a Western culture. You guys as Africans, you're trying to copy and paste Western culture, where people have children at a late age, or they don't have children at all, and they just adopt a cat or a dog, but that's Western culture. But for us, in our culture, we have children, and we want, like, when you get older, your children are able to take care of you, or be able to be with you. There is a video I watched sometime of they're saying men in those elderly homes, men are struggling. No one is visiting them. You're in an elderly home and you die very lonely because you don't have children.
Right, no, that's true. Yeah, that happens.
Because you don't have children, and it's a very miserable death. You're kind of alone in this world. You went for the money, you went for the books, but then they won't give you the companionship. They don't give you the love that you would have wanted at that age. So it was a feisty debate. I felt like I would bring it here and see, okay, what do you think, Robert? Do you think education and career is contributing to the lowering of childbirth?
So I do. Now the question, I think that's even a bigger question. I think we can agree that that's happening because I see it happening in the U.S. Forecasts are eventually for populations, especially in developed countries, to decrease because the rate of birth is not exceeding the rate of death. And I guess a question that I would raise is, knowing that this is true, is it a bad thing? And I think that, because maybe I have a very traditional kind of view on families, I see raising a family and having children as being a good thing. Now, does that mean that everybody should have children, or that if you don't want to have children that you're wrong? And I can't say that either. It is a choice. But I think what happens is, what maybe a lot of people don't realize when they're young is that when something seems reasonable to you when you're young, you may not feel the same way when you're older and you waited too long and it's too late. Like, let's say, for example, you're 20, I want to go and get my degree. I'll give you, okay, let me back up a second, because there's something that popped into my head. When I was in my job at the university, I think I talked about my job before.
Yeah.
I used to evaluate the effectiveness of science, engineering, mathematics, and technology education programs. So there was one particular program that I was involved with that tried to recruit students who were from more impoverished backgrounds, say that maybe from low-income families, to bring them into a summer program where they could come to the university, experience research, to show them what research is like, to possibly get them interested in going to college so that they can escape this cycle of poverty and change, because they're from a family where there's poverty. And then most of the times, nobody in the family had ever gone to college before. These are, they're trying to get them to be the first generation to come to college, basically. That's what the kind of program that it was. Well, there was a particular professor that was running this program. And I remember this particular professor telling me how he was very upset because one of the students dropped out of the program. He tried to get the student to come back the following year, but she wouldn't come back. And her reason, she said that she didn't want to be involved anymore because she wanted instead to have a family, raise kids, and not work, and to just be a woman that was a homemaker, the woman of the household that raised the kid and was there for the kids, and she felt that to pursue a scientific career would keep her from doing that because it would take her focus off her kids, and what she wanted was for her husband to work and make the money and she could be there with the kids, and so she didn't want to go in this direction. So she didn't want to be involved in this program anymore because she had decided that's not the direction she wanted to go with her life. This particular professor, in front of the whole group, told this story to all the students, criticizing her, and talked about how disappointed he was in her, and was communicating a message. When he told this to me, and then he told it to the group, he was communicating a message that to have these traditional values was something that was terrible, was something that was bad, and was something that maybe was destructive. How dare she reject a potential career, to want to raise babies and children and focus on being in the home and all this. How dare she do something like that? It was like it was offensive to him. And I remember thinking to myself, why is that offensive? That's her choice. And a lot of times what I see in the U.S. is that the idea of having a family is now devalued, and maybe that's kind of shifting back the other way now, but over the years I've seen that sort of thing as being devalued. And the thing is that I also wonder about is for women who make these choices early in life, when they get to be older, okay, they've got their career, they got their degree, they got their education, now they're looking for a man, and it's going to be harder for them if finally they decide at the age of 40, I want a family now, I want a husband now. It's going to be a lot more difficult for them to get that at 40 than it was at 20. And they're going to have regrets. And maybe some won't. Maybe some will be completely content their whole life through.
What I think from a point of psychology, it's that I have a question about, decision making. The question is, do we really make decisions on our own? And the answer is yes and no.
That's what I was going to say, yes and
so on the face value, it's mostly a yes. We make our own decisions. That's why when you're 18, you're able to vote who you vote and do whatever you want, get married to whoever you want. But no would be that usually my decisions that are a factor of how I was socialized and how I was raised and what kind of exposure I had. If you went to a very remote area in Uganda and got a woman and told her and asked her a question if she wanted to have children, and you asked 10,000 women in that area, you probably get below 0.1% saying they don't want to have children. Now, if you went to women who have studied, Ugandan women who have studied, let's say in the US or all over the world, and they have PhDs, and you got 10,000 of them, and you ask the same question, the number will be significantly higher. There will probably be like 10% of them saying, no, I don't want to have children. So I'm thinking the quality of information that we expose ourselves to, the narratives or the narratives or the doctrines that we expose ourselves to,
whether we get exposed to,
or we get exposed to,
whether we choose to be exposed to them or not,
they shape our thinking, they shape our decision making. For someone who hates gay people, you'll find that maybe their parent does lots of gay people, or you find that they grew up, they were raised in a school where they even used to try and beat up someone who acted gay, or they would like be condescending towards them, and then that's where the disdain or the disgust towards LGBT people would come from. So when you ask them how they feel about gay people, they'll speak like it's their own opinion, but in essence it's not. It is shaped by their own life experiences and exposure, So where am I coming from? Where am I going at with this? With all this, I think once there's a point where I read about population control agendas, conspiracy theories, of course, and they're saying the people at the top, they want to make sure they control population for reasons best known to them, and they devise means of how to...
Fewer people are easier to control, perhaps?
Yeah, they devise means on how to reduce population. But then there are also other subtle ones, or like salient, like those things that they're not so obvious. Things like feminism. Let's empower the woman so strong that we make sure this woman will be more focused on her career, on education, and she won't have children. Or she won't have, where she would have had 6. Now Uganda's birth rate, or what's that thing? It's called birth rate?
Birth rate?
Yeah, I think it's like 5 children per woman in Uganda. Whereas if you go to South Korea, I think it's 0.6 per woman.
Less than 1.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's, so the population in the long run would go down.
It's just going down in South Korea, whereas in Uganda it's not 5. And so what we do is that when we empower the woman and tell her, no, you have to stay in school, get a master's, get a PhD, go for another master's, and all that, you're taking away all her productive years, reproductive years, and then they will not be able to have children, or they will at most have one child when they are 40 or 41, and then they'll still run back to be a career woman. Because you've planted in their mind that career is more important than family. You've planted in their mind subtly, subliminally, from school. You've made it clear that success in life is financial. Success in life is about education. And you've planted it on now. Having a family, you do not talk about it as success. It is something that is way down the
that's kind of what I was saying with that professor. That's how he saw it.
Yeah, it's
like having a family is down here.
Yeah, it's not something that is a priority. So
down here, not up here.
So you find that a child grows back from primary, secondary, and they reach the top levels of academia, and they are focused on achieving what society calls success. And then, unfortunately for women, their reproductive years are not as they're finite. They're not like the ones for men where you can even have children at 80.
Correct.
Yeah. So the biggest target for these people would have been women, because men won't have children with men, they'll have children with women. So make sure these women, you delay their childbearing, so that even if they wake up at 40 and they'll just have one child, something like that. So that's just another way to control population. So make sure these women do not have children. Among other different population control methods, one strong one is, let's empower the woman. Let's encourage her to focus more on making money. Let's focus her on education and having all these achievements, being a strong politician, all these things. But then, in reality, even when she gets all this money and this popularity and this recognition, does it necessarily give them the satisfaction of life?
You can seem like it can do that when they're young, but when they get to be older and they realize, I want all these things, and now it's much more difficult to get those things.
I've seen them. I've seen a couple where you find she's 40, 45, and she didn't have children. Now she finds that the little brother has children, and she wants to own the brother's children. She's like, no, let them be at my place. And she's always having them. She's denying him the chance to be the father, because she's replacing the children she would have had with her brother's children. And now the brother is not having enough time with the children, because there's a sister who apparently loves the children so much, or is so attached to them, because she didn't take the opportunity when she could have. So in essence, I'm thinking there are many, and you can pump people with a lot of energy to be against child rearing, or like, apparently my body, my choice, or they call them reproductive rights and all this. But eventually, I feel like very, very few women don't want to have children.
Very few women don't want to. You're saying most women do want to have children.
Yeah, most women would definitely.
Because I think it's natural to want to have children.
Yeah, that's why the example I gave you is that if you went to the most remote areas, you would find that almost everyone wants to have children.
You have to teach somebody to not want to have children.
Exactly, definitely. That's a better way to put it.
You have to enculture somebody into that attitude.
Exactly.
Which is what I think is happening a lot of times in the U.S.
Exactly. So that's you brought it out so well. Like, you have to teach someone to not want to have children. The same way you have to, the same way even the LGBT people have come about, they've had to teach people to want to be gay. Or
they had to teach people to
want to be gay.
To want to accept. To accept or affirm homosexuality.
Yeah, and they had to. They actually.
Like, what do you mean they have to teach them to want to be?
They have to.
Because you're talking about people before in the past. People had a tendency towards homosexuality or an orientation to it. It was discouraged societally, so people wanted to not be that way.
Yeah, people did not want
it. That's what you mean. Okay.
People, like, even when someone had signs, they were, like, we talked about homosexuality some time back, but even when someone would feel like they feel funny, they would fight it off. They would try to be different, and maybe eventually they would actually get fixed. But now there's a lot of encouragement. No, you're okay. You're normal. It is what it is. Mm-hmm. And even others who would never have been gay, they have encouraged them, and then they think it's cool.
Because a lot of times I think you're like, for example, and
they incentivize it. They even give them money. Now, like our Ugandans, you find like there are people. There's a friend of mine who some gay person offered. He offered him, told me, if only you can let me have you as my girlfriend just for a few times, I'm giving you. And he first gave him like 300 million shillings. Then the guy refused, and then he gave him an open check, blank check. Like, okay, you sign how much money you want. So these incentives that are added to a country which is a third world country, people are poor, and then you're offering me a blank check. I can even put 50k USD or 100k USD to be your partner just for a week. You know, you're trying to force me to do unnatural things. You know, because while I think being gay is very unnatural, I also think the tendency not to want to have children is unnatural. Because if it was natural, why would you be having the reproductive system in you?
Right.
Because it is natural to want to have children because you have a reproductive system and it's active. That's why you have feelings or like a libido. That's why you have menstruation and all these things, because these are natural instincts. One of the strongest survival instinct is, sexual desire, sexual instinct, libido. It's a survival instinct, it's what is keeping us from getting extinct.
If nobody has sex, the human population goes extinct.
Exactly. So now, and then you start saying this instinct is unnatural, and then you start saying not having it is the natural part. I don't think so. I think our choices, or the choices of these people who feel like I don't want to have children, have been taught to them, or have been subtly been inculcated in them.
Yeah, inculcated in them. Yeah.
Or it has been trauma. Because some people actually understand someone is just traumatized, people who have been sexually assaulted, they would feel like that, especially people like someone is sexually assaulted as a child, they'll feel like, okay, I don't want to have children, and then they also get, raped because they have trauma. Now, these are cases that are understandable, you can always treat them. Then also there are people who are naturally unable to have children because of fertility issues and all that. That's something you understand. But someone goes all the way to remove their ovaries, goes all the way to remove to do a vasectomy. Why?
And you can't undo that.
I'm thinking these are things only very educated people do. It's very hard to find an uneducated person trying to do a vasectomy.
Right.
And what is education? Education is very important, but within education, that's still the way people get to manipulate society, because they add in their own agendas.
They have the power.
Exactly. So that's how I look at it, and the birth control thing. China, in 1979, China was they came up with a law, the one child something.
Mm-hmm. I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
You could have only one child.
Yeah, and when I was a PhD student, we had a Chinese student in our program. Mm. She got pregnant and didn't want to go back to her country because she wanted to be able to have the child here. Mm. So that because if she had gone back to China, they wouldn't have let her have the child.
Yes, so you could have only one child, and then
So you had a child.
yeah. Then they realize, okay, maybe it's not exactly really helping us to limit our people. Then they raised it to 2, and then around 2016 they raised it into 3. Right now it's 3. I believe the numbers will keep going up because now they've realized the value of having family, because it's good for our mental health to have a family, because it gives us a belonging. It gives us people that we can support network. It gives us people who it gives us that sense of family. We need it. And beyond that,
back in the 80s, I don't know if you want. I mean, because you got me thinking about something, but I don't want to.
It's okay, I can say.
So back in the 1980s, the big push in the United States that we kept hearing about was overpopulation, and there would be children's programs on American television warning people about don't get too many people. Like they would have these scare type things on TV where they were like science fiction-y things where the world fell apart and collapsed because there was overpopulation and starvation and the whole society collapsed. And there was one particular one I remember seeing. I can't remember what show it was, but it was a cartoon, and it was like this alien race came to warn humanity. It happened on our planet. It'll happen to you. Make sure you don't get too many people on your planet. And I look back at this stuff now, and it just seems you don't hear about this. You don't hear about overpopulation, and they don't even talk about it anymore because at some point people realized that it was. I mean, it's ridiculous. And I suppose it's conceivable that you could get to some point where you could have conceivably way too many people on the planet, but you've got a long way to go before you get anything close to that kind of number.
Most likely never going to happen.
Right, that's what I say too. And I think that's why you no longer hear about, you no longer hear, even from academia, people in the academic world no longer really talk about overpopulation or the threat of overpopulation. Because at some point people realized that it was actually just not going to happen.
And this will be far-fetched, but human beings are very resourceful, and they're very, we have survived ages and ages because of our innovativeness, our ability to actually handle different situations. Now you find that people like Elon Musk, they're apparently trying to build cities on the moon or in Mars or whatever. You never know, by the time all those things happen, we'll probably have colonized other planets.
We'll be having colonies on Mars.
Yeah, and people. So, for me, I feel like
there'll be a way through. I guess where people will find a way through.
We'll probably never get there. And why I felt like this is something we could talk about is that when we're having this conversation in the WhatsApp group, the people who are pro reproductive rights and all these things, they were so radicalizing. They were radicalizing the conversation, just hurling insults and being so strong in their language in a way. And I told her, but you're trying to intimidate people from giving their opinion. You're trying to guilt trip people, making people feel like they're monsters if they comment about people who don't want to have children. But this is, they cannot have a free debate. When you're having a free debate, they will radicalize the debate, and then they'll polarize it, and then look at it's me against you, and that's not how it is. If you want to have a kind of debate, you want to have it in a way that yes, you are listening to each other, everyone's opinion matters, and then you try to understand each other. But then they polarize it, and then it's now a fight. It's more of an ego contest. It's me against you. Whereas it's not me against you necessarily. It is my idea against your idea. Me and you, we can still be together and have different ideas and debate them.
But they don't want debate.
Yeah, because you know why it's easy for you not to want debate or to try and fight a debate? Because you know that some of the things you're defending are indefensible.
Yes.
Like it's very hard to defend what you're defending, so you have to put
you have to shut down any challenge because you don't have a response to the challenge. Because the people who are challenging you are correct, and you know they're correct, but you don't want them to be correct because maybe you're responding to what you emotionally want, even though all the evidence is there that what you want is just simply not productive. It's not logical. It's not rational.
Yeah, and the other thing before we conclude is that it is very, very. It's more likely to find women saying they don't want to have children than men. They've targeted women because they know women's life span of having ability to have children is limited compared to men. So they say, let's target women. So most of these programs are targeting women. These reproductive rights or something programs, they target women because they know men won't have children with men. So you find that most men actually want to have children, but the women, they've demonized men to women. They're like, men, they'll have children with you, they'll dump you, they'll do these things to you. So no, they first make sure that women, first of all, hate men, and then if at all they've beaten that trap of hating men, then they remind them that yes, you're having men, but please don't have children because you're not going to have a successful career. You're not be able to have a good having fun when you're still young. Your breasts are going to become funny until you find women, even when they have children, they don't want to breastfeed because my breasts are going to get out of shape. So funny things that they tell them, and then you find that they turn women against themselves because I believe it's natural for a woman to want to have children. Mm-hmm. So putting her in a place where she feels like no, children are a burden is an almighty effort that has been done over the centuries, and there must be a reason behind it, and I don't think that reason is a very righteous one.
Yeah, interesting discussion today, Paul.
Yeah. So
let's throw this out to our subscribers. What do you think about all this? Do you have any thoughts about this? Please put them in the comments, and we'd love to read your ideas, and we'd love to talk about them.
All right.
So
thank you.
All right. We'll see you in another 7 days. Bye.